Hello everyone, Caramel Tankin here, we're back with another review. Today's review is on the new 2026 Motorized Tommas and S.C.Ruffey. So let's get into it, shall we? So yeah, I got this guy off of Walmart's website. I actually waited and didn't grossly overpay for this like I know some people did. I didn't contemplate on buying, I know some of the eBay listings early, but I started against it. Because you know I'm not a sellout. But on the back of the packaging, it's Tommas and S.C.Ruffey on the back. No other characters on the back. However, you can see here on the barcode, that's a nitrogen Tommas on the front. And no, it's not a 2026 Tommas, and I'll put up a picture of a comparison of both this guy and another item that uses that similar barcode. But yeah, again, dark packaging is really nice. It kind of makes it stand out a little bit. I am not a fan of these guys being exposed to the elements for a multitude of reasons. You can see here there's a scuff on his roof, a little bit of a blemish on his tank, and then also, because I don't know if this is a Vietnam problem or the fact that this is just being exposed to the elements and knocked around and shit, but his handrail is also missing some printing. So yeah, it does suck. I do like the render of Tommas and S.C.Ruffey on the front. Interesting that S.C.Ruffey's name is printed at the new Tommas and Friends logo, which I do like how it's kind of shaped like a headboard, you know, new for 2026. But yeah, let's just get this cracked into, shall we? There's actually a button that does let you open from the bottom. Kind of reminds me of the some Lego set. Get this going up. Let's see, what do we have? It looks like we have an instruction manual. A render of Tommas on the top, this new 2026 logo and unpainted Tommas sample and legal information. Looks like it's held in by 3 little zip ties or whatever, so let me just get into that real quick, and I'll be right back. So here they are out of the package. They're actually way smaller than I expected. Here I'll just bring in some Thomases for comparison. So he's actually on par with the size of a Tommas. However, he's way shorter. I'm actually digging the proportions of this. Like actually a very proportional Tommas. I'm quite impressed actually. I always thought he does look a little squished in my opinion, but he's actually very proportional. I really like that. The middle wheel kind of bounce up and down. That's another thing. I really like the buttons on the top. I feel like, you know, obviously Mattel's been trying to switch from switches to buttons for a while, just, you know, the talking line and whatnot. I just think it's just easier to start and stop them, you know. But let me bring in some other Thomases for comparison, shall we? So here's a Tommas that we got last year, and yeah, I mean, there's a bit of a height difference. I think some characters work better than others in this new format, but actually, you don't have a Tommas for comparison. It's just a little bit of evolution. So then you have, it's so ironic that canonically the littlest Tommas is the biggest one, and then here's a Trackmaster 2 Tommas, the Hypergo Tommas. So yeah, that's kind of the evolution of everyone, and oh, how far we've come. That is quite the lineup. But yeah, I mean, just gonna get everyone out of the way real quick. Yeah, he fits very nicely in my hand. Look at that. I do think his front is just ever so slightly squished, but I do find it interesting there's a lack of lamp irons I kind of lucked out when it came to Thomas's printing, because I do know a big problem with this new stuff is that the stuff made in Vietnam has suffered some poor quality control issues, but I am glad that at least visually he looks the part, but will he run well? But let me put him aside and get the whole reason why I waited for this pack and we get the Wave 1 Thomas, because of good old Scruffy. So interesting. So here he is. He does have, it's a completely new construction. It does suck that there's no screws on these guys whatsoever. There's all one big piece. That does piss me off because I don't know how I'm going to connect these to other cars. Interestingly, these do have, the wheels have counterweights on them even though they're not engine wheels. I do think like having his name on like planks is an interesting choice. I don't know, like, I kind of love the handwritten feel that Scruffy had, but if I just compare him to the only other Scruffy I really have, that being the Thomas Wood Dynamite Scruffy, you can see his face is radically different in comparison to what he used to be. In fact, that like one tooth, he has all teeth but one. And I feel like his face kind of reminds me more of Bulstrode than it does Scruffy. Maybe just because his face is so flippin' huge. But here he is in comparison to an old Go truck. Similar designs all around, back and stuff, and then here he is next to the Motorized Troublesome Truck from the Greatest Moments pack. Ride's a little shorter, and then also, a standard Trackmaster 2 truck that we've had since 2014. So a little bit of an interesting lineup. I'm a bit conflicted on the magnets. Like, again, changing magnets for diecast was one thing. I get, they're trying to synergize the lines together, have them fully compatible, but magnets on Trackmaster, a line that's been running since, for almost 35 years or something? I don't know. It's a hard transition. Okay, his magnets do work. That is pretty good. It feels actually quite strong. I was really worried about the magnets being weak, but that's good. I was worried about that. At least the coupling seems to be easier to swap, but it does suck that I'd find something to adapt to these little guys. What else? I don't have any cargo pieces on me, but I did test. Some cargo pieces work on this Scruffy, others don't. I might pull them out in a bit, but yeah, typically I would cut to a running session now, but we're gonna do something a little different, that being we're going to see if this guy can truly run. So let me grab a fresh battery for him and I'll be right back. Alright, so here's the battery. I have the fresh battery for him right here. So here comes my number one concern with this Thomas, and it's the fact that these no longer run on 2 AAA batteries, but rather 1. So here's the battery compartment. It's akin to the motorized railway stuff. But I do like how his top shell pops off, kind of like old Tommy. But let's just kind of plop this right in here. Okay, almost instantly he turns on. That's good. Okay, so we can start and stop. Looking good so far. So I'm glad he can run. That was something I was quite concerned about. Wait, wrong screw. Hold on. That's what I think. Let's get this nice and tight real quick. I feel like Leo Kim video right now, bro. Okay. Let's see this. Let's set real quick. Okay, so I think. Okay, he runs pretty well. But let's see if you can actually tackle the tracks. Alright, so that's Thomas with Scruffy. I'm going to do a little modification to him, and we're going to put him through some true tests of strength. Alright, so it does seem Thomas can handle longish freight trains, as you can see. I just gave him a coupling off of an 80th Gordon. I was going to use the coupling from my broken talking All Engines Go James, but it doesn't fit. So yeah, I would say the rest of, I would continue this on the review table, but I would feel like it's worth sharing that when I did open up this Thomas, his motor is not lubricated at all. Like, there's like this much lubrication on it. Like, no wonder this guy struggles a little bit. I mean, he does seem to perform a little well, but I mean, he did tend to struggle on that spot right there. But again, that is worth noting. So anyway, let's head back to the review table for our final thoughts. So, what do I think of Thomas and Scruffy? Well, it's a alright item. I mean, I really like the whole gist of the item. But what sucks is that I was really hopeful I'd be lucky enough to get a working item, because you'd think they'd fix the flaws that were shown in Wave 1 in Wave 2, hopefully. Well, yes, my Thomas, thankfully, works to some degree. His motor is not lubricated at all. And, I mean, yes, I put on a motorized coupling, so if you do ever want to put a Trackmaster coupling on them, I recommend either the old short ones or a Tomei coupling. But other than that, it's a cool item. I mean, I love how proportional he is. I will say, it is weird how his headlamp, like, I mean, how do you have the headlamps on the die-cast items look more accurate than these bell-looking headlamps on the engines? But the only other thing worth mentioning that I totally forgot to mention is that if you look on Thomas's chassis, there's those two little things on the bottom that are present on the CGI model, meaning they pretty much one-to-one copied his CGI model to some degree. Even that little notch thing where like his external motion would go or whatever, I don't know what you call it. But yeah, I really love him. But I think the true question we need to ask is what do we call this Thomas? Do we still stick to the motorized version? What is this, Trackmaster 3, 4, hell, even 7? Personally, in my opinion, I think this is Trackmaster 3 because this is a whole new track system. Also, if you refer to this as Easy Connect, you're fucking stupid. I'm sorry. Easy Connect, I think, is just a way they advertise a track system. It's a marketing gimmick to say, oh, this track system is easy to connect together. I don't think we call this Easy to Connect, though. But the only thing I say, because it's a brand new track system, I think it's Trackmaster 3. Trackmaster 2, 80th and All Engines Go all master the same track, so to speak, and use, similar designs. But, and obviously I have Trackmaster 1 being, hit toys to early Fisher-Price. My only other problem with this item is that I wish Scruffy came with a piece of cargo. And I am glad that we're actually getting 2 packs with Troublesome Trucks for once, because, I mean, starting last year, besides if you want to count the Day of Thomas engine, that was the first, motorized 2-pack with a Troublesome Truck in a long time. I'm impressed it's taken us that long to get a Troublesome Truck in a pack. I'm surprised they didn't do it for All Engines Go. But anyway, that's all for me. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace out and goodbye.